What's up guys, Dano here from snowboard.com, and we are testing out 3 step-in bindings today in our step-in binding challenge. We've got the Flow NX2s, the SP Fastecs, and the K2 cinches. And we're gonna find out which one of these are the best. So for this challenge, we're just looking at 3 step-in rear entry bindings, or convenience bindings as they call them. So the Flows, the SPs, and the K2 cinches. We're not looking at step-on bindings like the Burton step-ons or the K2 clickers, because they're a binding and boot combination. You can't just buy the binding separately. With these ones, any boot will fit into them. You don't have to worry. Let's check them out. So first off, we've got the Flow NX2 bindings. These are brand new for 2018. They're a rear entry binding, and they're using Flow's active strap, which is a cantilevered technology that releases the ankle strap area of the binding as you lower the high back to get in and out. And this works really, really well. Full disclosure, I've ridden Flows on and off for the past 10 years, so I was really excited to try these out because that ankle strap area was always an issue with the older model. What they've done now, the high back drops down and the whole ankle area is released and moves upward, and it makes getting in and out of the binding super, super easy. The Flows differ from the other bindings because they use what Flow call their power strap, which is basically a one-piece huge strap that sits over the top of your boot. And what this does is it transfers a lot of the pressure out across your foot, rather than having those straps that kind of cinch down and really start to cause pain in certain areas. The Flows have full alloy chassis and canted footbeds, and they also use what they call their power triangle, which is the shape of the cable as it runs from the chassis to the back of the binding. And this means that you have a lot of power transfer in your turns down to the board. The high back angle on the Flows are adjustable with a little wheel here, so you don't need a tool to do it. But the lateral angle is not adjustable because of the way that the high backs pivot in place. They can't be adjusted in that direction. Flow does make a freestyle version of these bindings, but I would say that these are definitely aimed more to sort of all mountain free riding, as they are quite a stiff binding, and when the high back is up, you don't get that much movement. So not really a park riding binding. We haven't got any footage of me riding these bindings because they actually broke on the second run. So, I mean, you can probably see here the color difference of the cables. And what happened was one of the cables actually came away from its fixing. And this was only an hour into the riding. So, I mean, I wasn't very impressed. In Flow's defense, I'd never had any issues like that before, and they were good with fixing it. They've got great warranty and replacement coverage. But that didn't help me really when I was stuck up the side of a hill with no working binding. Other than that, these were amazing bindings, and as far as getting in and out of the bindings go, these were probably the easiest that we used. Next up, we've got the SP Fastec binding. So these are another rear entry binding. So next up, we've got the SP Fastecs. This is another rear entry binding. Next up, we've got the SP Fastecs. Now this is another rear entry binding. It's the same, fuck you. Rear entry. So next up, we've got the SP Fastecs. This is another rear entry binding. Technology for these bindings is being used in GNU's bindings and in the Volkel bindings as well, which is another European company. This technology kind of goes across a few different manufacturers, but the technology is the same. It's a high back that drops down, but instead of like Flow's bindings with the auto strap, they have this auto RS system, which is a buckle release that unclips when you drop the high back. So that's what takes the pressure off your ankle when you're getting in and out. The ankle straps on the SPs do have ratchet tightening, but the toe straps do not. They're a hard plastic material, so you basically set these, get them into position, and then you don't adjust them anymore. So the toe of your boot actually slides in underneath the toe strap. So once they're in, they're in. There's toolless adjustment, but no ratchets. The high backs on the SPs are adjustable, so you can change the angle, but like the Flows, you can't change the lateral angle of the binding. But unlike the flows, there is a lot of movement, so they're quite a soft binding, definitely more of a freestyle centric binding, so better for the park, jibbing, tricks, that sort of thing. The one downside with the SPs, you have to raise the high back when you enter and then clip back down the auto RS system. So this clip will release, but you need to manually clip it back into place when you step into the binding. So it's a two-step process rather than a one-step process. So last on our list, we have the K2 cinch bindings. These ones are a little bit more interesting. They actually have the chassis separated into three different pieces: the high back, the base, and the front of the chassis. And when you drop the high back to use the rear entry, it sort of opens the chassis up, allowing your boot to come in sort of in a downwards angle. The other thing is these bindings can be used exactly like a front entry binding. So both of the ankle strap and the toe strap can be opened up and used as normal. So it gives you a few different options. The problem with these is because of that chassis setup they have, what you find is the binding itself feels a little bit washy, a little bit loose, just because it doesn't have that solid firmness that you would from a one-piece chassis. We weren't a massive fan of the K2s in the office here, and that was purely because of the entry mechanism. The high back and the way the system works is a little bit clunky. One of the straps that you use to get in and out of the binding actually snapped while we were using them. So another one of the issues is when we were trying to use the binding just as a normal binding, the ratchets were not very smooth, and the toe ratchet itself was extremely difficult to get undone when you're trying to get in and out. So for a binding that's supposed to be calling itself a convenience binding, it wasn't very convenient. So that's the step-in binding challenge. And as far as ratings go, the general consensus in the office here is the K2 cinch is probably coming in at third. Not a highly recommended binding. It still has some good points, but overall, we weren't a big fan of the K2. The flows probably coming in at second. This is definitely a very, very good binding. Look at the flows, they're really good. Quite stiff, but a great option. And the winner out of the three bindings is definitely going to be the SP Fastec. This was a super fun binding to ride. Nice and soft and playful, good flex, great for the park. And the step in, step out mechanism worked really, really well. So we really enjoyed riding the SPs. Check them out if you get a chance.